All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Don't look at your clocks because we're a minute late. It happens.
Probably just technical difficulties there, right?
Yeah, the technical difficulties were my coffee wasn't ready. So
You hate to see it.
look, it had to be done. It had to be done. Well, how are you today, Jacob? How's everyone else? Who's here? What's up?
Good. I feel like some days, some mornings, the coffee just tastes really good. Today's one of those mornings. Just appreciate
That
it.
would be. Aren't we lucky?
Good problem to have.
Truly. Well, I'm going to post on my story really quick. Emily, good morning. Oh, Emily, one of our strongest soldiers. Truly. Always up at the break of dawn. Is today break of dawn day for you, Emily? I feel like it is.
Yeah, it's gotta be. It's gotta be early.
Yeah. Okay, let me finish this small task that is still difficult for me to do. And then we'll be well on our way. But tell us how you read this one, Emily, Jacob. 4 a.m. before the break of dawn. Truly.
Wow. Well, for me, this one was. I know it's a surprise as usual, but this was an audiobook read for me. Audiobook listen.
Way to switch it up on us, Jacob. Keep us on our toes.
One of these days, I'll read a book for real, and it's just going to be a whole new experience for me. I do have some books I'm reading for real, but this just didn't happen to be one of them. I had to audiobook it.
Yeah.
It looks like Brendan's on the same page there with the audiobook, so I'm in good company.
Right. Right. Exactly. I physically read this one. Got the book to prove it, but I did physically read it. Emily, how did you do this one? Got it. Do you see my mug?
Very nice.
I know. Listened to the full audio yesterday. Almost ran out of time. What is it about this book, you guys? All of us were down to the wire. I finished it this morning.
Yeah, I finished it half an hour ago. We jumped on our call here a little early just to prep questions and all that. I finished the book about 90 seconds before I joined the call.
So, did you really?
Had it on double speed this morning for like an hour. Plenty of time to spare.
Ask Brennan what he listened to this on. What speed he listened to this?
It has to be double at least.
We'll see what he says. We'll see if he
Every time I'm listening to the faster speed, I feel like I have to start it at 1.5 or something and let my ears get there, and then I just slowly hit the plus and just ramp it up by that 0.5 each time, or 0.05.
I will say usually I listen to books at 1.5 speed, but there have been books where, especially if I immersive read, like if I have the physical book and I'm listening, I gotta ramp that bad boy up. Keep us flowing. See, Brendan, 2.5. I'm like, you're not comprehending anything of that.
Is it all the words? Does it just blend all together and you just kind of, it's like skimming? It's audibly skimming?
Emily!
3.5? I just don't know that I could comprehend it. I mean, do you have to ramp it up? Do you start it at 1.5 and then just plus?
That is a real feat. That is like an accomplishment. 3 is normal for me.
I've got to just hear this at 3.5.
Yeah. You just must have great comprehension.
That's literally what it maxes out at. You can't go faster.
Emily would go faster if she could, I'm sure. Gosh.
I'm amazed that you were able to read at that speed, listen at that speed.
That is amazing. I do think people probably have some people probably have better comprehension, at that speed.
And if 3 is what Emily's used to, then I mean, I would think your brain gets used to it. Like you
Yeah.
kind of pick it up as a skill.
Well, honor to you.
So,
So I know we usually kick off with ratings. I don't know if we want to do that today as well.
yeah. What did you think? Would you rate this one?
I'm having such a difficult time reading this. And Emily, I don't know if you've read other Emily Henry's. I feel like I've got this little pyramid I'm working on, right? And so trying to fit this book in with all of the books from her I've already read. But then I'm like, is that fair to her book as well? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm comparing her to her absolute best.
Pyramid, like you're trying to tier list her books specifically? Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, is it fair to compare her absolute best to all of her other books? Right now, I think I enjoyed it better than Funny Story, and I gave Funny Story a 3.75. So that would put this, it might be the same. It might be a 3.75. It might be a 4. But there was a lot of dialogue around this book, which we'll get into. A lot of people were not happy with this book.
Really?
Big fans of her. So we'll talk about that a little today. But I don't know. It was well written. It's at least a 3.75, I think. Maybe closer to that 4.
I don't know that I believe in the quarter ratings, but I'm at that 3.5 to 4 ballpark as well.
Just give in, Jacob.
One of these days. I think it's more on the 4 side for me. I think it's higher.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated, especially coming off a first-time caller that was very pure romance.
Yeah.
I appreciated this one having some more to it. Like there were other interesting plot lines than just the primary romance of it.
Yeah.
I think it does end up as a 4 for me.
Yeah. It is kind of nice to read. I mean, it's a more dynamic read than a first-time caller. So it's kind of nice being able to compare those. Brendan gave it a 3.5, which honestly I think is fairly good for Brendan in the romance department. I don't know if Brendan thinks that, but I think that's a pretty decent rating from him. Hannah felt the same. Yep, she gave it a 3.75. Quarter. Stop.
The quarter ratings.
I'm changing everyone. Books, you need to have that option. And for Emily, 3 on enjoyment level, but writing was a 4.
Yeah.
Well, we'll dig into that for sure.
Yeah, I wish I'd taken better notes on some of the writing because there were a couple of points that it stood out to me that I thought the writing was really solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think let's talk a little about maybe like the 2 stories coming together to one, because you talked about this genre being a little more dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, her books are not quite as dynamic. They pretty much maybe tiptoe towards literary fiction a little bit, like women's fiction, but for the most part, I would say they stay in their lane as romance. This one dabbled with a lot of genres. Obviously, we have mystery. We have like kind of a historical fiction, honestly. Romance, literary fiction. So how do we feel like these were balanced? And were you invested? Because we have these 2 stories that are being woven together. Were you invested equally? Were they balanced? I don't know. Things along those lines.
I think I have a couple of notes in the Fable book club on that like there were a couple of points where I would switch plot lines, and I would get halfway into that chapter and then realize like I'd kind of forgotten about the other storyline, and every time it switched back, I was curious. I got reminded that I was curious about what was happening next on that. So
Yeah.
I do think that both of them were kind of compelling in their own right, and the switch back and forth, the way they were woven together, made it so it didn't feel disjointed. Like I know I've been vocal about I don't usually like the dual narrator, and this wasn't dual narrator, but you still have those 2 different stories. I thought they were really well mixed together.
Yeah. I have like conflicting feelings on this as well, and I think that's why my rating was conflicting. At the beginning, I thought they were equally compelling and had equal energy put towards them.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was enjoying going back and forth. I mean, there's some times where you're like left on a little cliffhanger and you're like, dang it, okay, got to get through this little part. And I liked her little stories too, that she's like, this is how she would write it if she was writing her like biography. It would be a biography, right? Yeah. So anyways, I liked those, but for me, I feel like as the story went on, the romance fell a little too far into the background, and it was really right towards the end. Because I feel like she tried to add too much twists and relevance to the story at hand and tried to wrap them all together. And I feel like it would have been better if we didn't try to make that leap. And I know that gets more towards the end and how she conducted the ending, but I would say it felt balanced until probably like 60% in, 70, and then I was like, this is supposed to be a romance, is it not? And I think that is why this book was heavily critiqued by huge fans of her. She's known for romance, and that was definitely a back burner, but it was still promoted as a romance. So, I mean, you guys might have thoughts on if it really was a romance, if it's not, but people were upset about that.
So would your preference or the consensus preference would have been like keep those plot lines more divided, but have more equal priority to both of them?
I feel like people would probably just would want there to be no, twist moment at the end that makes it all make sense, and this is why they're here, and this is what she was trying to manipulate. I don't care about Margaret's intentions as much, right? I'm interested in her story.
Sure.
I care about how them working on this together is going to impact them being together or not. That's kind of where I would have liked for the romance to come in stronger at the end.
I think this gets a little bit to the conversation we've had before on the plot-driven or character-driven discussion. That you don't care about the reveal and all this. Like, I think that drove the second half of the book for me. That was a huge part of why it was compelling, because I could feel there was something like that. There's too much going on for this to not be tied together at the end, but I didn't have it nailed down what that tie was going to be. And so it was continually interesting to me to get more information about it throughout the back and forth.
I mean, I was curious about Margaret's story. I just didn't want it to be this like deeper connection to this couple or this person.
Was that part of was that reveal a surprise?
Yeah, I thought it was cheap. That's my opinion. I thought it was a cheap twist at the end. I think she had a compelling enough story with her life. I think Jody being there could have been like, that's the big reveal, is like, okay, we know who Jody is. I think that was enough. I think trying to drag the whole reason she was willing to open up about this and do this was because of her grandson. I don't know. Let's see. Sorry, Emily, I missed your comment. Felt like a subplot. Yeah, romance felt like a subplot. And I think the plot was too divided. I think we did maybe need, I personally enjoyed the mixing of genres, but then again, I'm not a huge fan of romance. So I feel like maybe you and Jacob would be along the same lines there.
Yeah.
I think there needed to be more romance. And I think we needed to rein in some of the other, even like the beginning, they spend a lot of time on her family before she's even in her family, right? The whole backstory of the lore of the Ives.
Mm-hmm.
We could have niched down, we could have pared down there a little bit, just a touch, to keep us invested in the romance, which again, maybe this is this plot versus character driven, romance versus like truth, storytelling, mystery.
I think it's also, if you're evaluating it, kind of what you're bringing up with the criticisms of this, if you're evaluating it just as a romance, I think I get what you're saying. There's too much else for this to be purely a romance. For me, and it sounds like for Hannah, that was a plus. Like,
yeah,
having the romance in there but not be the sole focus felt like it gave the book some more depth to it to me, and allowed you to be like interested in other pieces. You got little breaks from just the romance aspect of it. in ways that kept it new and interesting each time she came back to it.
Yeah,
I don't feel like I got tired of their romance.
I did appreciate the breaks. But I think it just got, I don't know. Emily, are you a purist with romance? Someone chime in for somebody on my team. Get in the comments. I do like the breaks, and I do like the mix of a little literary fiction.
Yeah.
I think the ending like ruined some of that for me. And I think I will say a lot of romance I enter wanting to have a very easy, fluffy time. And once they started talking about the sister and her life, that's when the book shifted for me. And I did not enjoy the rest of the book as much as I thought I would. And I think maybe it's because of what I'm expecting that I'm reading. But it was much heavier than I was prepared for, I think.
I think they had a tone shift there on the romance side of it as well. I think that was when he first brought up the past relationship where they'd applied for the same job and there was a little bit of weight to that. And then you had all the back and forth with like, oh, which one of us is going to get this job? Are you going to resent me? There was a little bit more weight to that side of it as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think she kind of locked herself into the ending in some ways because of that added dynamic of like both of them having this investment in getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a clean way to get out of that and preserve the relationship or preserve the romance aspect.
Yeah. It did start to disappoint me. I don't know if it was like, I don't know.
Are you talking yourself into a 3.75 here instead of a 4?
I might be talking myself down because I loved Hayden too until that end part where he decides I'm going to pull out. I'm not even going to like do this. I'm not even going to compete with you. When all the time leading up to that, they had agreed that we're just going to keep working as hard as we both can. And we've agreed on that. If he wanted to take his name out of the running, that should have been a discussion with her as well. And he should have been telling her like his reasoning for doing that. Instead of being like, I brought over champagne, like, yeah, the pitch is over and you get to go tomorrow. Like, I think that it was a bit of a character assassination for me. I said, damn it. I loved you. And now look what you've done. Emily also wanted more romance, so vote. Two of us in the chat.
We're tied.
Emily, we're fighting for our lives out here. We're not romance readers. It felt out of character for him to take his name. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the same discussion in some ways. They're like, what do you, obviously knowing what we know after the fact, where he's your grandson.
Mm-hmm.
If they had both, neither of them withdraw from it, they both go through with the competition and she picks Hayden out of it. What's the next plot point? Like, how does it get resolved so that happy ending romance?
Well, I don't think she could have, right? I don't think she could have chosen him and it would have ended this way, but she could have been like, you know what? I want you to write it together.
Yeah, I was rooting for that for a while in the middle of the book. I think that would have been a stronger.
Yeah.
Conclusion.
So it would have led it a different direction, but I personally think it would have been stronger. And then it could have been like, I don't know, a better ending for me.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
But so yeah, maybe I am talking myself down.
Wow.
I will say, let's talk about our characters a little bit. Let's rein it in. Let's circle back. Because I know you had a lot of like early impressions, really quick feelings about our characters.
Yeah, I know there were maybe some of Hayden's early impressions of her that I definitely agreed with. There was a comment that I remember that I wrote down that there was something about the maniacal laughing. Like, yep, agreed, not loving her right now. The book, the first 20% or so, I think I was probably down at a 3 sort of thing. Just that I didn't like her.
Mm-hmm.
Just a tough character for me to identify with at all.
Yeah.
A little too just like happy-go-lucky. but I think it evened out, and I do think you needed some of that at the beginning to set the disparity between the two of them.
Hmm. I liked her. I liked her from the jump, so I
Off the
feel
bat.
differently than you. Um, and it was funny because it's like I don't know that I identify with her, but I love how she approached situations where it's like, oh my God, we're in the same room and we just fought, or like he fully rejected me. It's like most people would be like, this is so embarrassing. I'm going to run away from this situation or, hide. And she's like, I'm going to go say hi. I just loved her approach to that kind of thing. She was easy for me to root for.
Hmm.
And I wasn't rooting against Hayden, but I don't know. I just like how she persevered. And even when she was like felt down on her luck, especially with this situation, she like, I don't know, she was able to believe in herself.
I think that's it to some extent. That like she'd had rough situations, or there were things that weren't great, and she wasn't. It was almost like she wasn't taking them seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not accurate, but that was my initial impression of it. It was just almost being too flippant about the situations.
Yeah. But I do think it is like you learn about her character and her life and how she felt like she needed to be. And clearly she has deeper feelings and thoughts. And I did like how that came full circle, like how he communicated to her about like, you need to, it's clear that these things are upsetting you and you're not doing anything. And then she sees Margaret on that flip side being so much older, like battling with, am I going to tell him the truth or not?
Mm-hmm.
She kind of uses the same exact arguments and she's like, oh my God, like this is not who I want to be or become.
Yeah.
This is that same idea. So I did like how that kind of came full circle.
And we kind of get the opposite view of it with Hayden. Early on, he is much almost broodier,
Mm-hmm.
and then as you get to know the character more, there's more depth to it. Maybe we're just describing character development right now.
There was you guys. There was character development, but honestly, it is important, and I feel like a lot of modern novels are lacking that. Like literally, if we look at First Time Caller, which we just read, I think Aiden significantly lacked character development. They like last ditch did that thing where he like calls his mom and whatever, but it was like it lacked true development. Like the parts that made me teary-eyed in this book were like her going back to her mom and her truly sitting down with her mom and them talking and them like rebuilding a relationship that was in shambles. Like that's what moved me in this story. And again, I thought that was a great addition, but I felt like we were spread too thin trying to be like, but we also have to wrap up this story and it needs to be relevant and make sense. Like, again, I care about my characters and their development. So I cared more about her connecting with her mom and working there and working on that.
Even from a plot perspective, I think that felt like an afterthought. I think it would have been a stronger ending to wrap up with just the storylines that we were aware of for 90% of the book. You don't need to go into, like, in a paragraph, here's everything that happened next in their lives.
Yeah.
I think that's where you have an epilogue or a sequel, or like there's other ways to get that information, or you let the reader just take it. But having more time spent on actually wrapping up the plot lines, that if you're going to tie all of this together, spend the time, tie it all together, and let it be.
Yeah. I was rooting for her at first because I felt he didn't care as much. It was just a job to him. Yeah. She had a lot of personal investment. But again, is that to say, like, did Hayden maybe have a healthier perspective on it being a job? And for her, it meant a lot more because of her family and her dad. But she's easy to root for.
Well, I don't know that it's unhealthy for her to be more invested in it.
Yeah.
You can have emotional attachment to it and still do a good job.
Yeah. But it was weird. I never felt myself rooting against him getting the job either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I wanted her to have it, but I also was like, I don't know. I grew to like both the characters a lot. So I wanted them to both be successful.
That's also, it was so much set up, like, he's going to get the job.
Yeah.
That was kind of the expectation a number of times throughout.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's why we each were rooting for essentially her letting them write it together.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a nice, because you like both of the characters, having them both have the success in it
Yeah.
would have been easier from the reader's perspective, at least.
Very true. Brendan, can't help but notice you've been a little quiet in the chat. Like, was your reading comprehension just not quite there? I'm kidding, but got not much to say. Do we want to talk tropes? Do we want to talk about them as a couple?
Yeah, you would do tropes and maybe talk about the actual like plot lines of the two stories too.
Yeah.
Maybe I guess we kind of talked through the romance, maybe the other side of it.
So talk about the other. Should we talk about the other side of the plot? Is that what you're thinking?
I think we do tropes first and then that.
Okay. How do we feel about the tropes, people? Sorry, Brendan, I did call you out. So I would say the most prevalent trope is Grumpy Sunshine, which I guess we just unpacked their characters quite a bit. And some people do hate the Sunshine character. So
that's what I didn't like at the beginning, though. It's like, if I don't like her character, she's clearly the Sunshine. Does that make me grumpy? I just don't feel like that. I didn't like that.
You having some realizations over there? You're like, wait.
It was a real concern for me early on.
Yeah, that's fair. Sunshine character is not always likable. I think Grumpy character is usually more likable to me, but what can you do? They definitely have forced proximity. I loved them running into each other all the time.
Yeah, having it be on the island, like having the setting be somewhere where it just made sense for that to happen without feeling forced, like not forcing forced proximity.
Yeah.
I think it's
cute. I loved it. Oh, our rooms are right next to each other. Oh, like this and that, I loved how the universe kept pushing them together. But I like that. I like forced proximity. Talking about being pushed together. The rainstorm.
Weather element.
It's a good element.
It does. We were talking about this the other day for the Shadow and Bone, right?
Yeah.
It seems like that. I don't know. I do think that is a forced proximity that I like. That's a fun one for me.
Have you guys seen the show? We've been watching the show. And Nina and wait, I shouldn't say anything because it's like deeper into the show. So sorry. There is a natural disaster element where our characters obviously have to be together due to weather predicaments. It's a good one, man. It's like, oh, it's not in our control. Oh no. Yeah, natural disasters always work for me too. I like that. Workplace romance, I felt like I don't love workplace romance, and I felt like
that's also a little weird when they're not in an office. Like, yes, it's a workplace romance, but it's also just like it's their lives. They're just out in the world.
Yeah.
Happen to be doing the same job.
Yeah. And that kind of led to like obviously our sticky situations, which like reasons for them not to be together, which have to be there, which I will say I guess made sense. I sometimes hate when you enter a novel and you're like, the third act breakup, like the reason you don't want to be together doesn't make sense. You're just trying to create some conflict for your characters. I think it made sense. He dealt with something similar before. He didn't want to cross the line. But I will say I hate how they were so big on not crossing a line, not actually sleeping together, blah, blah, blah. And then they break that anyways and they sleep together. And it's really anticlimactic, that like part. When you're like, okay, I thought this was like a big goal of yours, was like, we're not going to until we know who's like has the job.
I'd be curious to go back and look at the timeline on it, try and figure it out. Did he already know who had the job at that point? Was that after he had already withdrawn? I don't think we knew that until later on. But he withdrew like several days before, right?
Oh no, I can't remember. I'd have to fact check.
Yeah.
I think it's before. It's definitely before she knows.
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone else with better memory.
That didn't bother me.
That didn't bother you?
No, I was open. I was okay with that.
I wasn't. But then I think I was already feeling that the romance was being pushed aside, and I was like, I'm mad.
It wasn't compelling at that point.
Yeah. I was mad. Oh, Brendan. Poor Brendan, you guys. Where is our wardrobe? Real gap in the market. I didn't love the forced proximity. What?
What about the weather forced proximity, though, Brendan? You know, the storm forced proximity. Totally different.
You guys put some widower tropes in the chat for poor Brendan. He wants to read The Holiday. He wants that to be a book.
I would read that. That sounds great.
It's kind of that classic thing where they can't be together, but it's written like they can't, resist the line of fate drawing them together. I do love that. It's a little bit, I guess it's not forbidden romance, but it's a little like.
But it's all self-inflicted.
Yeah.
It's not like someone else is saying
It's to me, because like I think you believe that trope is like someone else has to.
Yeah.
There be a bigger reason that they can't be together, or that it's like starving.
If you allow they can't be together because of things that they're imposing, then that can be resolved by them just changing their minds, and that feels like a weak trope.
Yeah.
It can be resolved by just them choosing to resolve it.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Probably not in all cases. I'm sure there's situations where I'd be more okay with it, but yeah, it usually does. For me, I usually do want that to be an outside force.
That's fair. That's fair, I guess. Weather also feels too convenient. Jacob, how does it feel?
It hurts, I'll say. Rough to hear.
You don't like the weather. The weather is always a good one.
Weather forced proximity might be top 3 trope for me.
Look, Jacob and I need a podcast, and then we can tier rank our favorite tropes. Get really niche.
I'll have to find out what my options are.
You gotta do some more digging. You gotta do some more reading.
That's right. A little more market research.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Perfectly sunny island than a storm. Emily, you're a romance lover too. What are you saying?
It's just the Atlantic coast.
You never know. You never know. I do love a little natural disaster in a novel. Sorry, specifically in a romance. Well, let's wrap up thoughts kind of on the couple, and then we can get into the other side of our plot. Are they still together? We've gone through the tropes. We've talked about them as characters. Did we find their love story compelling? Did we root for them? And do we think they stay together? Oh, Brendan has last thoughts on the weather, though. Maybe if the weather comes first, but when it's at the end of a long line of convenient run-ins, it loses its charm. Brendan, you sound like you low-key hated this book.
No, I like this idea. We get a prologue, starts us off mid-hurricane, and then we go from there. I think that could work for me.
You just got to convince Brendan.
Yeah. If you could work on writing this, Brendan, that would be great.
Oh, love that element, but it was so forced into the plot. But Hannah does say it's pretty normal for that area of the country, so.
There we go.
I feel other things were more forced than the weather, for me. And the run-ins were forced.
No, the weather was fantastic. Agreed.
I love a little convenience, like, ooh, we're both here. There are 2 restaurants in town. I liked it. So anyways, were we compelled?
I do think they're still together because we weren't given any reason that they wouldn't be.
And they had to fit in that little one paragraph epilogue. So
Yeah, like I do think they're still together. I think that they were more compelling from the professional standpoint than the romantic standpoint. Like each of them individually as characters.
mhm.
But I was more interested in their romance than I was in First Time Caller. I've got a short list of comparisons that I can make here.
Yeah.
I thought it was better in a lot of ways than First Time Caller, the romance specifically. For me.
We're getting there. We're getting somewhere.
I've got to go figure out what I rated First Time Caller. And
Oh my
probably
God.
drop it a little bit.
I thought the love story was very compelling, especially at the beginning. I liked the grumpy sunshine element where you weren't quite sure how he felt. And I could feel like you could feel like the tension between them. I think she does a beautiful job writing that type of like passion and tension of like, will they, won't they, or what their first kiss was like. Like you feel like you're in the moment with them. So extremely compelling. It got significantly less compelling because she did not give us enough. Okay, towards the end, and it's like, and now they're married and have a baby. I'm missing a lot here, folks. We do not need that wrap up at the end because I didn't get to know anything about more of the lead up here.
When you're a fan of the whole enemies to lovers, and they're a little bit like there's tension at the beginning that is negative.
Mhm.
It's maybe not enemies, but it's not like they start the book as friends.
Yeah. I don't know if I think I would have thought they would stay together because I think they did a good job early. Less so minus the epilogue. Epilogue not in mind. I think they were able to kind of like push each other and talk to each other about their hardest traits and their hardest like I don't know, navigating difficult things in their life. And I think that's a strong sign of them being a good match.
Are you thinking mostly of his comments to her after visiting her mom the first time?
Yeah, I think that part. And even though she didn't take to it well, they obviously, during the storm, they work it out. And it was things she realized she needed to hear.
Yeah.
But I think she does.
Growth the other direction. It would have been nice to see it the other way too, like
Yeah,
communication from her to him. There was some, I guess.
there was some. It was, I mean, I would say she's our main character, right? And he's like that secondary character, and then Margaret's our like third on that little totem pole of who we're following. So
We're 40 minutes in. We haven't talked about Margaret at all.
oh no.
Appreciate you all joining the 2-hour book club today.
Make that second cup of coffee, team. Oh, that's so true. But yes, I think they're together. Yeah, let's wrap that thought up. Think they're together. I think they had a compelling romance. Unfortunately, I felt like it trickled off towards the end. But I think that was due to our other plot line, which I guess we should get into. Anyone have thoughts on their romance? Sorry.
Honestly, I do agree with Emily's comment here that like there wasn't a lot of depth to it. I think there was early. There was more early on that felt like the depth was going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess looking back at it, I almost feel like I was distracted by the other plot and didn't really think too much about the depth of their relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't need the epilogue. I'm rethinking a lot, guys. I don't know. Is this a 3.5? Is it a 3.75? I don't know. Maybe
5 in the conversation.
What?
Just asking, just seems like it's a lot of negatives coming out here.
I know. Let's talk about Margaret. Let's talk about that plot line.
Okay.
Did we enjoy it?
I think I would have read a book just about that plotline. I don't think I needed the romance at all. I mean, a very different book, but
yeah,
I thought that was a compelling plotline on its own. And I like that sort of almost historical fiction, a little bit more investigative. I think that's great.
I think that Emily Henry took a page out of Taylor Jenkins Reid, her books. She wrote a book called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Oh yeah.
This was a little copy paste of that, I will say, like Margaret's story. So if you liked this, I think TJR almost does a better job with it because she really makes you feel like those like people were real celebrities, even more so than in this book. And that's where I think Emily Henry might have spread herself a little thin, trying to balance how full can you make this little element while still having a full romance, right? I think that's where you can run into issues.
No, that definitely makes me interested in reading.
I think it was a better version.
Okay.
But it's a different story because it's so much more focused on that celebrity of that decade.
Mm-hmm.
So it was better done in that way, right? Because it wasn't trying to. And the twist, anyways, the twist felt cheap in this book.
In this one, okay.
And so I think that made me more mad about Margaret's storyline, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree that the twist felt cheap in this one, but I think about halfway through the book, I knew there was something. I thought that it was going to be what's our main character's name in this book?
Well, now I can't believe you said that, and it just went out of my brain.
Okay, I can't place it right now.
Alice.
Alice?
Alice Scott.
No, I don't think that was it.
No.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Alice. So I thought that Alice was going to be related somehow. So like I was wrong on it, but right on the idea of it. But I think it didn't feel cheap to me because I felt like I saw it coming to some degree.
Yeah. Brendan, okay, I'm glad that you've read this and I remember that we read this together. Didn't it feel just maybe a little bit too close? That's why there were things that happened in that book that I thought were going to happen in this one. I think just because I read something so similar. Does that make sense? Like, I thought some of what would come to fruition. So I had a lot of guesses about halfway through because of this other book.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to read that one.
But it was enjoyable. What is it? Just like the worst version with romance. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who really saw those similarities. And then Hannah did say she cared more about like the family plot line, like you, than the rest. So you guys had a very similar reading experience. Hannah, remind me, you gave it a 3.75, right? Are people changing their ratings as we talk more and more?
We've got to start doing ratings beginning and end.
Yeah. How do you feel after this conversation?
Yeah.
I wanted them to be real people so I could research and read more about them. Okay, if you guys liked, I'm serious, if you guys really loved that plot line in this book, read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Is that one based in reality? Like that they're real people?
No, but our main character is very Marilyn Monroe. Like, but you feel like they're real. So much more than this book. Like, I
Googled Cosmo Sinclair at like 80% of the way through this book because they kept making references to Elvis and then the Beatles, and I was like, maybe
you're like
based on a real person at least. Come on.
You guys, please read this and then tell me what you think of it. Very popular book by her, but yeah, you should definitely pick that up if this historical celebrity element did anything for you.
Yeah, the other one I would recommend, not at all romance, but Brad, it's either Meltzer or Metzler. I mixed up the T and the L, but it's purely just historical fiction. Like a lot of it is based in like historical presidencies, and it's a little bit Da Vinci Code, National Treasury, but it's really fun because all of your stuff it's fiction placed in real history. So there's a ton you can Google and find out that it's false. Great reads.
Sounds like Hannah did the same thing as you, Jacob. She was looking into them. She's like,
Hannah and I just had identical experiences with this book.
You guys did. Please read that book then. I'm glad that I can point you guys to that.
It's Seven Wives of Evelyn, or Seven Wives?
Seven Husbands.
Seven Husbands.
Yep, close. We're getting there. Seven Husbands of
We've gotten there eventually. got to pull up.
Yeah. I think after reading some people do, and I feel bad for Brennan in the chat because he does not love historical fiction at all. But I feel like she could have done either of these plots better. And I think that's probably why I ended up being more disappointed. And I think where her strength lies is in romance, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I'm like, I think she could have still added this historical fiction element. But I think it needed to be less present. And I think she needed an editor to be real with her.
I do think, I mean, this is my first Emily Henry read. You obviously have read a number of them, maybe all of them. I don't know. But where, not necessarily putting it on the pyramid that you talked about, but just roughly, how does this compare to others of hers that you've read?
I mean, this one is much different. So I commend her for trying something a little different, having these literary, more fiction elements added into the romance. The other ones are very romance dedicated. I liked our characters here, though. I think she does a great job capturing a character that you can kind of be like, yeah, I can see this person, or these attributes. And I like when they have little quirks, because all people do. I like, like Hayden finding all the diners, right? He's like, I love a 24-hour diner, and that's something that is just like small, but it's a bit of who he is. My favorite of hers is Happy Place. Beach Read is probably tied up there with it. And it's like Happy Place follows a group of friends. So it's romance, but it's still like has all these other characters that you are introduced to. Yeah, I think she's done better. I don't know. And maybe that's why I'm being so hard on this book. And maybe it really is a 3.75. But when I look at what she can do, it is more disappointing to me. And I also can't help, sorry, quick soapbox and we'll move on. I feel like the publishing industry has really pushed authors to be able to churn out a book every single year. You see that in a lot of publishing houses. And I think this one could have done with another round of edits and kind of nailing down what do we really want this book to deliver on. Because I don't think it fully delivered on any of the things for me.
So do you think you would have liked this one better if it was a different author? Like if it was a different name on the cover?
Probably.
You're bringing in how much you like the rest of her work.
Because I know she can write something better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have a great concept here. I truly do believe she had a great concept. I like these competing writers. I like their characters. Let's figure it out, team. Let's figure it out. Let's proofread. Let's edit again. Get someone in that room who's going to be honest with you. I don't know.
Yeah.
A little Trey harsh. So maybe I should just leave it at a 3.75. But I think her last two books have been more disappointing to me than a lot of her work. And I think it is. She's on this schedule to release a book every year, and she's already posted that she's writing another book right now.
So if we go to the extreme on it, like, is this your least favorite of hers that you've read?
No.
Okay.
People we meet on vacation, for those who have read Emily Henry. It was a friends to lovers.
Ooh. Rough.
Not my favorite. Not my favorite trope. I hated the characters. It's kind of hard for me to win me over if I don't like your character.
That's tough to overcome, yeah.
So, sorry, do you hear Darcy snoring?
Every now and then. It's impressive.
He's snoring really hard. Sorry, everyone. Anyways, that's my soapbox. I will leave it there. There was better Emily Henry. Maybe we should read a different Emily Henry, Jacob. I could reread Happy Place.
So far, we're just reading new books, though. Not stuff that either of us have read before.
I know.
Be breaking trend there. Or we switch it up and we go for a few times in a row reading something that's a reread. Could be fun.
Could be fun. Has anyone else read Emily Henry? Sorry, I know I spoke a lot on that. If anyone else has any thoughts or have any ratings for any of her other works, but I just want to almost look at like the time between each publication. I just think these authors who are good authors are being pushed harder to finish lines to churn out more work. That's my opinion. It's a heavy one. Anywho, any other thoughts before we kind of wrap up, right? Figure out what we're reading next.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we did spend a ton of time on the family storyline part of it, but I don't know that there's a lot there. I guess she talked a lot about their storyline and Margaret's storyline, the different versions of it. I don't think I have a question there. Just I liked that balance in how she was able to give you the original storyline and like what was everything that was known, and that gave a foundation for, I think, setting up why Margaret was so private. And I think building in Margaret's storyline for how she ended up here and why she was being so secretive about everything, I think that whole side of it did develop really well.
Yeah.
That is a part of why this is a higher rating for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't entirely historical fiction. Like, there certainly were things that I would have wanted more depth on if that is what the sole focus of the book was. But for it being split between a romance and the historical fiction aspect of it, I thought that it was done pretty well in that limited capacity.
Yeah. Sorry, my final thing to weigh in here. She's released a book every year since 2020.
Wow.
So I do think I can judge this more harshly then.
Just because you have more to compare it to?
Because if some of her best works I've read were released again that next year, she only has a year to work on them, then this book didn't have any less time or more time necessarily than any of her other works.
So some of your favorites of hers are in that since 2020 timeframe.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And Emily did say read Beach Read, which was her. I mean, she actually wrote YA before she transitioned into romance. But that was my first read from her as well. And I really liked it. But again, same as you, I read it many a year ago. So I would have to revisit it, I think. And then Hannah said she read Happy Place and really enjoyed it. I love Happy Place. Ugh, love that one. But anyways, yeah, like she wrote a book in 2022 and then it was published May 3rd, 2022. The next year, April 25th, 2023 was when Happy Place came out. And that was a full 5-star for me. So yeah, this one might even be lower on the totem. Oh, I don't know, you guys.
Kind of gets to your comment of this needing another round of edits, though. If Happy Place and Beach Read are much more in her typical genre, maybe that year timeline is okay because she can write something, she's comfortable in that genre, and it ends up being good work. But this was a little bit newer for her.
Yeah.
Just maybe needed another pass.
Yes. I'm with you. Those are my final thoughts on that. I feel like this has really ironed that out for me. Good.
So through 375.
I'm having a hard time because I think I did enjoy this book more than Funny Story, which was her last year release. So yeah, I think I'd probably hold it at 375, and I would almost lower Funny Story. But I sometimes feel bad retroactively re-rating things, especially when I read them like a year ago without a reread.
Yeah.
But I think we'll hold it at 375. Now you got to read her whole backlist.
Or at least Happy Place and Beach Read. It seems like those are the two.
Yeah. Some people really like Book Lovers. Narnie loves Book Lovers. I I did not like our characters as much. That's a big part of it for me. So that one did not do as much for me, and I hated People We Meet on Vacation, but people who love that book are like diehard, love that story. I think she over-quirkified our main character, and I was like, you're just annoying. So if you thought Alice was annoying, like multiply that by 1,000,000, and then you get Poppy. Good thing no one in the chat's read it. Well,
slandering this book left and right.
Yeah, I really am. Any final thoughts, anyone? I know we kind of went around, we circled back, went around again, but any final thoughts? And then we are going to vote on our books for next time. Brennan is dying for us to add extra votes for those who actually attend meetings, which I do think is fair because we get a lot of votes for the books, and then those people don't attend our book club. It's hard. It's a public space, so they get to vote. But it's easier for me to add one bonus vote. Does that make sense? So everyone votes right now, and then you can go vote when I post it on the channel. So our runner-up from last time was Wolf Song by T.J. Klune. That one will roll over.
That's a YA fantasy, right?
Is it YA? I didn't know if it was.
For some reason, it's in my head that way, but I don't know how accurate that is.
I can give us a little fantasy, romance, paranormal, queer. So I don't think it's YA.
Paranormal.
Well, wolves.
Wolves on their own are not paranormal. Those are real. We have wolves in the world, actually, Grace.
Not wolves who are main characters of this book. This is for adult readers. So okay. Probably adult content. Wolf Song. Jacob and I have. Let's see when this book comes out too. Sorry, guys. I should have looked that up.
July 1st.
The books that Maxton Hall, the TV show on Amazon Prime, the books that it's based on were German, right? Come full circle with me, guys. Stay with me. They were German. They made the German show, dubbed it, whatever, on Amazon Prime. The books are now getting translated. That's the right word. Translated into English. And they are coming out July 1st. So we could read them.
Could read them, could wait on it. So season 2 of Maxton Hall is November 7th.
Yeah.
So we could wait, save it for October, November, read it in.
But October, we're going to have to do a spooky read.
Yeah, we're locked in.
So.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. We can wait. We could read it in November. But anyways, Save Me is the first one in that series. Brendan, he said he's voting for whatever, and he didn't even spell Maxton right.
So that would be Martin Hall. That'd be either Wolf Song or
Before the Coffee Gets Cold is the other one we were going to throw in the mix this time. It's shorter, which is sometimes nice in the summer. I don't know. This one is translated from Japanese. It is about a cafe where you can travel back in time, but you have to come back before your coffee gets cold. I think it's giving a magical realism to me, but let me look at the genres. So it's fiction, fantasy, magical realism. So that was our third pick. Oh, your brother read it.
The votes. I think that's where my vote is going. It's Before the Coffee Gets Cold.
Well, your brother's read it.
My brother.
And Emily's read it. Should we not do that one, you guys?
Yeah, we can come up with a different third one. But I would be curious to hear your thoughts on it, Emily. That one sounds really intriguing to me.
I'm looking at Goodreads right now. I should have checked this earlier.
You say Spencer's read it? My brother?
Read it, yeah. Yeah, your brother. Who's brother?
There's other people in the chat with brothers. I didn't know.
Yeah, your brother. Your brother didn't have good things to say, if that helps you at all.
Oh, I was just about to message him, but I guess his review is on Goodreads.
It's a long review too. But Emily says she doesn't mind rereading it if we choose that. Or if someone wants to throw another random in the mix. He's so long.
When did he read this?
He read this in 2023.
Huh. I'm pretty sure he read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo also.
Oh.
Apparently he needs to start showing up for these things.
You know, that's not in my control. I think you would have an easier time.
I'll reach out. I was going to say he's moving back to an easier time zone in July, but time zone's no excuse. We got Brendan and Emily both here, so he's really nothing to stand on there.
He hasn't rated it if he has read it.
Okay.
Anyways, sorry guys, we're like losing the plot rapidly. Let's put a different third one in because Emily has read it, and Emily, you are a dedicated, I was gonna say subscriber, but really like member to our book club. We should choose a book that you haven't read and would like to read. You know, should be in the mix. Does anyone have a genre idea they'd like to throw out? Speak now or forever hold your peace, because I'm scrolling through my want to read right now.
We've got fantasy romance, and then probably Save Me is just straight romance.
Yeah.
There's not really anything else to it.
Yeah.
Looking around at the bookcase here.
No one has any ideas. Okay. Should we do a thriller?
Do a thriller. You could look back at previous polls and see others that have not won.
No one wants to throw something in the mix. You guys are making this hard on us. You're making us drivers in this book club. Sorry if you hear the water drinking. Maybe a Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, Emily, I see you. She did just have a new book come out. I don't know, it's a space book. I was like, but I'm sure she did a good job with it. I think I've read a lot of her works. Let's see. I never read Carrie Soto is Back. That's about a tennis player. She has a big backlist. Her most recent one is Atmosphere. Came out this month. It's historical fiction.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll throw that in. So Atmosphere, Wolf Song, or Save Me, but I have a feeling about what all the random people are going to vote for who won't attend, but that's okay. Anyone want to put forth their vote before we log off? You get an extra vote right now if you want it. I'm voting for Save Me, clearly.
I think I'm voting for the Taylor Jenkins Reid, whether it's Atmosphere or a different one. I think that's...
Emily's voting for that too.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything else? Okay. Well,
we know Brendan's vote is not Save Me.
Yeah. That's his business. Okay. Thank you for attending today. Thank you for joining us to chat. See you in about a month, but I will definitely keep you updated. As always, thank you for being here, Jakey.
Absolutely happy to.
Oh, no preference from Hannah. But but I wouldn't mind not a romance for the next one. That's fair. Maybe we'll put different books against this one because I feel like it's actually a lot of romance. Okay, just wait for the post. It'll be up today. All right, thank you guys for being here. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at ending the stream. Here we go. Bye for real.